robes, his pall, they call it, the vestments of the Archbishop, those tokens of his office that make it official that he's the Archbishop of Canterbury. And this is an insult to the King of Rome, or rather to the King of England. This is an outward sign.
Okay, it seems I also fixed the media thing on the browser, so one nonsense things after another. Anyway, I'm just listening also to the programs here. And we got some reruns. Pretty much, I think I found 3 reruns that I can delete. So let's see here. So I'm doing that at the same time. Yeah. By the way, I found out something that really, really annoyed me in regards to this. You can lock drawer. Then apparently this is the drawer. The thing is, when you actually was doing the thing here with the here, it would take this out, and I would lose. Control and all that. So you can actually lock the drawer. That helps a lot. That's pretty nice. Nice little feature. So you need to, if you want to open up the lock thing here, you need to go over here and push this. And this is perfect because I don't think I usually automatically, open this. So anyway, yeah. So let's get on, and also in regards to listening to, so I can verify that these are the same.
Good morning. Welcome to us, Tom Press, and update. My name's Tom Press, and I'll be your host for the hour. You're listening to First Amendment Radio.
There we go. I think it's.
We're going to return now where we left off yesterday. The History of Romans by John Dowling. We're right in the middle of a huge controversy between Pascal II and King Henry I.
Sounds like we have another one in regards to the same here. Anyway, I'm transcribing with some software at the moment as well, and it's pretty cool, Although with these old machines and all that, it kind of takes a lot of time, a lot more time than. But anyway, it's working. So I guess let's try to see if we can do. There you go.
Now, the Pope reasons that if the king were allowed to appoint Anselm to the archbishopric and force Anselm to swear allegiance to the king, it would be equivalent to a man creating his own God. Because, according to Roman Catholic law, the priests and the prelates of the Roman Catholic Church are so many gods. And the Pope, the God of gods, is the only one who has the authority to appoint the princes of the church. Now, King Henry I is steadfast in his assertion that only he has the power to invest this office on Anselm, and that Anselm must be required to pay homage and allegiance to the king. And the papacy says it's a matter of excommunication if one of my priests, one of my little gods, me being the God of gods, swear allegiance to a king. Alright, so Anselm is between a rock and a really hard place here. Neither the Pope is going to budge, and neither is the king going to budge. And obviously, a man cannot serve two masters. So this has to be decided. Now, the King of England is treading, you might imagine, just a little bit lightly, because if Anselm leaves England and goes back to the mainland, he may team up with the Pope and find King Henry I's brother, Robert, who was the rightful heir to the throne. Remember, King Henry I had usurped his brother's kingship. And if the Pope and Anselm side with his brother Robert, they can come and overthrow Henry I and put Robert in his place. But the king is wholly steadfast. Now, we're in subsection 32 on page 270 of the following thrones of the Roman Catholic Church are so many gods, and that the Pope is the God of gods, and only he has the right to invest Anselm into the position of Archbishop, and Anselm is on the pain of excommunication if he swears.
Ah, stupid me.
The king was rather irritated and convinced by this. Okay? The king was not going to budge. And it says,
I got distracted by something,
that is Henry's court.
and that made me. Oh well, whatever. We got it anyway. We got a second place, so it's not bad. Let's see what we have more. So this is the last championship, and easy mode apparently is just not so easy. It's incredible. It's like I don't, it's you kind of have to change the car, because if you don't change the car to one of the others, it just seems to be too hard. In regards to the standard car that I would usually use in the Android version, which I actually thought was, but then finding out that actually some of the other vehicles seems to actually be better. Helping you kind of. Oh, this is dark. We're like. Okay, we'll just give it a little more here so I can actually maybe see something. This is also a problem with the games. Actually, I should actually write that. Some brightness control for the games would be absolutely amazing. Maybe they could actually fix that into the emulation things. I guess this is something that Nintendo didn't fix into it. Of course, if the emulators are going to do it, then of course Nintendo would need to force the same thing, right? They would need to do it to follow up and do some sanity. Yeah, sanity. Yeah. The ninjas, I guess Japanese ninjas, would need to do some sanity and put some brightness control. As I understand it, there's no brightness control on the Switch. But anyway, if the emulators actually began to do that, some brightness control, then of course Nintendo would need to do it, or at least they would be behind if they don't. Now, of course, in regards of not putting some brightness control, of course, it's absolutely satanic depravity, and we see the same issue in overall in Android. It's like you can't fix a brightness thing, or contrast, or there's different features and all that. You can't fix that into the system. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I probably should write that into let's see here. Could you see here? Oops, how do I actually like this? Not so. See here, set maybe. No, there we go. There we go. Going back here. Yeah, some games, and of course, standard overall on the mobile, just things are just too dark. So, of course, I'm still looking into actually wanting to fix it for the overall mobile, but I still haven't gotten further on that. I have, so many things. And the moment, of course, I'm listening to Tom Fresh here in regards of duplicates here as well. And we're running in regards to the background, doing some stuff as well. Also have some Bill Cooper's. The 2001 radio shows have been sorted out. I'm transcribing by tiny.en English, so it's the worst of the worst. And someone said at least you should use I think it's norm.english or something like that it's called. But anyway, Tiny seems to work pretty good, and of course I'm on a crap computer, so kind of just, nice to, like, it still took over 10 hours to do the whole thing and all that. So even on tiny. But yeah, so I could search, and I've tried that as well, and it seems to be working very good. So I can search on specific words that I can then catch and see what radio shows that Bill Cooper was talking about Christianity, talking about Jesus, the Pope, Antichrist, the Jesuits, the Jesuits and Jesuit singular as well. Um, and other Illuminati as well, although that might go a little too much in the wrong direction. Because he talks a lot about Satanism, what the Satanist believes, and all that. And I don't really care much about that. Tom Fresh is much better. He talks about Christ and Antichrist pretty much all the way. Now, again, there might be some things that I disagree with in regards to Tom Fresh, but absolutely, there's absolutely some things I could make a list, and I probably should make a kind of a list. Although now that after he got off the program, I'd have no clue in regards to what he's in regards to directions, because he seems to have gone off rail into things that kind of he didn't seem to sort of have in the radio shows. So I'm not sure how that goes. But of course, his readings from Protestant books are still awesome. Still nice to hear a voice that actually do it and is kind of on the right track on that in regards to who the Antichrist is and all that. Of course, the Antichrist is the Pope, the so-called Pope, and of course, we shouldn't call him the Pope, so I call him the Poop. The unholy figure. So we got a second place on easy mode, because apparently I'm just so noobish, so I can't even win on easy mode. Because I really don't. I guess I really think that the programmers should make easy mode easier. And they have made it way too difficult, because you can't, like, if I take the standard car that I would normally use, it's nearly pretty much impossible. So it's just you know and of course, if you look at the stats on the car, it seems like they are really really good. This is the car that I normally drive at. You'll probably see it in the back or something like that. We'll see how it goes. But that is pretty much nearly impossible to win with. And now, of course, I'm just talking about losing. We're just getting into the losing front here. Anyway, but yeah, this is easy mode, as they call it. And you have this prototype car, which I guess would be considered the best car, pretty much in the game, I guess. But you need to win the champion, whatever, to get it. So anyway, so yeah. Anyway. We have the third place. Whatever the case, as long as we get third place, that's fine. Doesn't really matter in regards to the first place overall and second place. Of course, it would be nice. Well, I guess you get more resources to further buy some cars and upgrades and all that. But yeah, easy mode. That's what they call it. That's what they call it. Ah, anyway, so that's easy peasy mode, and I guess one of the cars that you get later on doesn't seem to actually do good either in regards to the shows. Anyway, let's see here, Tom Fresh here.
history of John Dow. Yesterday we learned that on the 9th of September in the city of Westminster.
Yeah, it sounds to be the same as well. So we have 3 duplicates or reruns. Anyway, let's see prototype number 2. So we have a Rasta, Bucky, Big Red. There we go. The Big Red was the one that I would usually use, and as you can see, number 5. So that doesn't really do so good. Gertrude or flatbed, flatbed thing here. That's the one that you actually get later on, but it doesn't seem like it's very good. So it's kind of a little weird. Whatever. We got the next one. So we have gold mine. I hate gold mine. Don't really like gold mine. It's a garden. Don't really like that much either. What is this? Far East? Oh yeah. Okay, let's try that. Oh yeah, that's fine.
This usurpation of the kingly power in England was to prove the Pope's power over the King of England, to prove his power of investiture, okay? To prove beyond anyone's doubt who the King of Kings is. That's what was established. Now, part of the canons that were passed into law during this open and flagrant Synod of Bishops was that having to do with the priestly marriage. Okay, the Roman Catholic Church, the doctrines of demons is taught that the priests are forbidden to marry. Forbidding to marry, it's an identifying characteristic of the Antichrist, and that is what the papacy has insisted upon, that its priests be unmarried, that is celibate. Okay? Now,
we got
it says, the second paragraph of subsection 31, page 271, if you're following along, it says, in the night which succeeded the conclusion of this council, this Synod of Bishops, an incident occurred which made a prodigious noise throughout England and brought no little scandal on the Roman clergy. John de Crema, the Pope's legate, who had declaimed with great warmth in the council the day before in honor of immaculate chastity, okay, sexless, marriageless priests, and inveighed with no less vehemence against the horrid impurity of the married clergy, was actually detected in bed with a common prostitute. So as I alluded yesterday, this is how God always throws a monkey wrench into the Antichrist works. Okay? The doctrine of demons coming down from the Pope of Rome, declaring celibacy to be the law of the priests of the so-called Christian Church. The very legate who represented the Pope at this synod was caught that night in the bed of a common prostitute. While the Roman Catholic Church was forbidding its priests to marry, the legate from the Pope was caught in bed with a prostitute. Okay? See the hypocrisy? And this should be no less shocking to you than in a paragraph previous where the papacy chided the King of England for even thinking to exercise the power of investiture in appointing a bishop or an archbishop in England, saying that it would be like a man, that is the king, a man conceiving his own father, okay? Or an ordinary man fashioning his own God, okay? Now, the hypocrisy in that is that the Roman Catholic priests and the popes call themselves the creator of their creator. When they stand at the altar in the Mass and elevate the piece of bread and say, "This is the body of Christ, hoc est corpus meum,"
Hocus pocus.
They transform the bread into the literal blood, body, soul, and divinity.
Oh yeah.
And by their own
The
description,
cookie god
this is
of the
a
papist.
man creating God
Man
in
creating.
front of the people.
Oh yeah.
Okay? They find no hypocrisy in that. And then turn around and charge the king of attempting to create his own God by appointing an archbishop. And at the same time, the hypocrisy reigns when the Pope says that all the priests should be celibate, married without wives, celibate and chaste, and while at the same time the Pope's legate is caught in bed with a prostitute. Demonstration after demonstration of lying hypocrisies. And this is the defining characteristic of the Roman Catholic Church, the synagogue of Satan. It says, in the night which succeeded the conclusion of this council, this is when celibacy was proclaimed as a canon of the Roman Catholic Church, a law of the Roman Catholic Church that none of the priests should be married. An incident occurred which made a prodigious noise throughout England and brought no little scandal on the Roman clergy. John de Crema, the very man who sent by the Pope to pass these canons forbidding to marry, who had declaimed with great warmth in the council the day before in honor of the immaculate chastity, and that is the marriedless priests, and inveighed with no less vehemence against the horrid impurity of married clergy, was actually detected in bed with a common prostitute. Now, let me retreat just a bit. Look at the words he used to treat marriage. Horrid impurity. Okay? This is how the papacy and his priests and his nuns and all the monks, all the ecclesiastics of the Roman Catholic Church, from the archbishop to the bishops to the priests, the whole lot.
Oh, and that works pretty good as well. But anyway, let's see here.
They regard marriage as a horrid,
we have
impure.
Duplicates here, and we can delete those duplicates right here. So apparently he must have been sick or something like that in regards to these reruns. But let's see, I move to trash. And then we have this one. He's probably going to talk about the reason or something like that. We'll see, Page 69, 70, 71, 72, 74. We also had those that was removed by probably YouTube. I think I'm missing one radio show of this book reading now. So I pretty much think I've sorted all of the others, but by one. I think I'm missing one radio show that YouTube removed, and I'm not sure if that's possible to actually get. But yeah, I need to look into those files because they're very, very close. So yeah, as far as I know, there's missing one. But yeah, all those that YouTube apparently had removed seem to be in regards of pedophilia cases about the Roman Catholic Maniac Institution, which I guess was maybe too much for Google YouTube, so they removed them. Forced them to remove them. The ones that put them up. Anyway, let's go forward here.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inquisition Update. My name's Tom Press, and I'll be your host for the next hour. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Oh, let's just take it a little up here in regards of.
Thank my listeners for the prayers and support during my most recent bout with bronchitis.
Oh, he was been sick. Okay.
For my listeners for my absence, and I beg your patience and thank you very much for your prayers and concerns.
So that's why
I wish to get busy this morning with our return to the reading and discussion of the book The History of Romanism by John Dowling. We'll begin our reading in subsection 38 on page 277 for those who are following along in the work. But before we begin our reading, we want to recap a little bit for those who have patiently waited for my return to the program. My voice is a little bit weak this morning, but I'll struggle through. as my recovery continues. But to recap, before we continue with subsection 38, we're talking about one of the most memorable and consequential events in British history. The great contest between the reigning pope at the time, Pope Alexander, Antichrist Pope Alexander, and his man in Canterbury, the Archbishop of Canterbury,
Alexander.
Thomas A. Becket.
Wait a minute, are we
on
actually
one
talking
side,
about Alexander the
and
Seven?
the King
Actually,
of England, King.
I wonder if it's Alexander the Seven in regards to that. There's some movies actually. If it's Alexander the Seven, the Spaniard guy from Spain, there's two what do you call it? Movie. What do you call it? Seasons. There's an Australian series, and there's a US series, but this US series didn't finish. And they go sort of through the years. They have some variations. It is a series and all that, but you do see the disgusting, filthy papacy and how the cardinals are working and all that. So you do get like familiarizing yourself with this system that you might not have no clue about as a Protestant or in the West and all that. And you can see how diabolical this system is, how it uses the Bible for its own gain, the words of how it's just, and how it does the political game and all that. And I think that was Alexander the Seventh, by the way, and I kind of okay, maybe that's the guy they're talking about. And this is of course real history, so that's of course much better than a movie. But you do see, it does expose the system on a lot of levels in regards to the depravity and things that they were doing, and the killing of this guy, both anyway, but there are some variations here and there, and that's just how it is. I think that was Alexander the Seven, and then you also have like the guy that Machiavelli, as far as I know, based his book on. Just disgusting, filthy book. I was like, if anyone is using the book of Machiavelli as a guideline, they shouldn't be in politics anyway. But of course, apparently it leads back to Romanism, so I guess it's not a surprise. I think it was one of his children, one of Alexander's the Seven's children, that were Machiavelli based his book on, as far as I understand it. Um, as far as I know, might be not totally solid on it, but um, as far as I can gather. So I'm not sure when totally Machiavelli lived, but apparently Machiavelli is in, I think, both series as well. With in regards to the Prince, the book The Prince, which apparently is based a lot upon this Gregory the 13th son, which I can't remember name of at the moment. Yeah, it's not going so good in regards to this level. But hey, we're running on easy mode, so no worries, right? Because this is easy peasy, right? Easy peasy, easy mode. I have no, like these programmers, like, either they do one way, and then they do it like, it totally just went the other direction. It's like, make it from easy peasy to just totally boost it into a level where it's just ridiculous, in some sense, like easy mode. Easy mode, you're really telling me this is easy mode? Yeah, okay, yeah, easy mode. Make one mistakes and then you are kind of, totally behind. Easy mode, I can feel the easy mode or not. Yeah, not, I can't find, yeah, I just can't feel the easy peasy mode here. And I don't understand in regards to the money thing. I don't know if there's more money drops in hard mode than easy mode or whatever, but besides that, is you just get the same out of it as far as I can see, which is also a huge mistake, in regards to like, there's no sanity in gaming anymore either, Can't even figure out, the most standard things, Give a little bonus for the people that play on hard mode or something like that when it's nearly impossible to get on first place anyway, Oh well, a fourth split place. Don't think it. I don't think I drove so badly that I should have had. But this is easy mode, right? Easy mode, easy peasy mode. Anyway, maybe we should get back to Tom.
Henry in this case, his parents, and even most of the Roman Catholic priesthood at that time on the other. A cataclysmic contest between the papacy and the civil power. Now, we know our Bible says that he, the Antichrist, the Pope, reigns over the kings of the earth. And during this period of time, the 12th century, the middle of the 12th century, the papacy did indeed rule all over the kings of the earth, except England. England was one of the very last holdouts who rejected the pretended power of the papacy and rebelled against the papacy.
Go England! Go England!
Again, at this period of time, which history regards as the noonday of the papacy and the midnight of the world, there's a growing controversy between the Pope of Rome, Pope Alexander, and King Henry. Now, Rome was all powerful at this time. And as we even see today, when the Roman Catholic Church and the papacy are powerful, their priests are corrupt. Okay? Criminals. I mean, do I need to even mention the global pedophile priest pandemic and the seemingly powerlessness of the world's court to bring these pedophile priests to justice and to prosecute the papacy over these monumental crimes? World-class criminals. And no one can bring them to justice.
Easy peasy.
The world court cannot even file a charge against the papacy. It is said so publicly. So the world just has to tolerate these pedophile priests. No one dares condemn them. Well, at the time of the writing of this account of England, it's the middle of the 12th century, 1164. The priests were all powerful and they were all criminal. Thefts, robberies, extortions, and murders. And we recently read the account of, at this period of time, one of the priests of Rome had debauched a young virgin. And in order to spare himself and his girlfriend, if you will, from the wrath of her father, he killed it.
That's
a very rich and powerful man in England. He killed it. And the king got wind of it.
Probably murdered would be the
sins of the
better
Roman
word,
Catholic
probably.
priest had, as it were, reached unto heaven. And the king had to do something about it. So he instructed the Archbishop of Canterbury to surrender that violent priest, that criminal priest, to the king's court to be tried and punished for his crimes. The Archbishop of Canterbury refused to surrender that priest and instead protected him from the justice of the civil power. And in the meantime, word of it got to Rome, and the Pope issued a papal bull, one of the most powerful writings that a Pope can write, relieving the Archbishop of Canterbury from his oath of submission to the Constitution of Clarendon. The Constitution of Clarendon was an attempt of the civil power of Rome, or the civil power of England, to hold the priests accountable for their crimes. And after first swearing to uphold the constitutions of Clarendon, and thus making it necessary for him to surrender this priest, the Pope issued a papal bull to the Archbishop of Canterbury, in this case Thomas A. Becket, absolving him from that oath. The papal bull said, "You answer to me and to me only, and you do not answer to the king. And if there's a charge brought against one of my priests, you are to protect that priest. They are my priests, not the king's priests." All right, and now since the Roman Catholic canon law doesn't have any provision for capital punishment or any other punishment that fit the crime, these priests literally were without fear of the civil power. And so their criminality only exploded. So you see the controversy. The papacy's going to use this incident as an opportunity to extend and to reinforce his lawlessness. The man of sin,
what happened?
The son of perdition, just like the Bible describes it.
Oh, that was the wrong one.
He's going to usurp his authority over the just king of England. He's going to protect these criminal priests. And that's just the way it is.
48 degrees.
We know he reigneth over the kings of the earth.
Yeah.
All right, so push is going to come to shove. Okay? Becket tried to leave the country. And God is in charge of the weather, despite what some will tell you. And because of contrary winds, Becket was not allowed to leave the country. The boat kept blowing right back to shore. So this contest is going to be held for all of history to account. Who's going to win in this controversy?
Didn't we just have that?
Now,
apparently it didn't register.
The king had sent someone to confiscate all of Becket's money, all of his chattels, all of his possessions, and hold him in contempt of court for not showing up at the civil power, the king's court, with that criminal priest. And when they went to confiscate all of his goods, Becket was there, not able to leave the country. So the king was summoned. The king came to Becket's apartment and says, "Why did you try to leave? You think England's too small for the both of us?" And that's all that was said. But the controversy continues. Now, subsection 38, page 277, it says, soon after this interview, this direct confrontation between the king and Becket, Thomas A. Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was protecting these priests, it says, fresh misunderstandings arose between the king, that is King Henry, and the primate, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas A. Becket, who publicly protected the clergy from those punishments which their crimes deserved, and flatly refused to obey a summons to attend the king's court. Henry was so much enraged at these daring insults on his laws and the royal authority that he determined to call him to account before his peers. Okay, who are the peers of the Archbishop of Canterbury? All the other bishops and archbishops and priests of the Roman Catholic Church, and all of the barons, and the king himself. Those are his peers. So he's going to summon Thomas A. Becket to give an account for his actions before his peers in a parliament which he summoned to meet at Northampton on the 17th of October, 1164 A.D. This parliament was unusually full, the whole nation being now deeply interested in the issue of this contest between the crown, that is the king, the civil power, and the mitre, that's the papacy, and this Archbishop Thomas A. Becket. Okay? Now, remember, during this period of time, all the nations of the world, all the kings of this earth, had submitted their authority to the Pope. The Pope literally placed the crown on the kings of the earth at this time. And the Pope usurped his authority that if having received the crown from the Pope could take it off your head too. Okay? So the Pope reigned all over the kings of the earth at this time, except King Henry of England. Now, on the first day, the king in person accused the Archbishop of contumacy in refusing to attend his court when he was summoned, against which accusation, having made only a weak defense, he was unanimously found guilty by the bishops as well as by the temporal barons, and all his goods and chattels were declared to be forfeited. Okay? So look, don't misunderstand. It's Thomas A. Becket and the Pope against all of Britain. The king, the barons, that's the civil power, and also the bishops. So Thomas A. Becket doesn't have any support in England. The only support he has is hidden in the clutches of his hand, a papal bull secretly issued to him by the Pope Alexander, absolving him from his oath to submit to the Council of Clarendon, which required him to surrender that criminal priest and all criminal priests to the king's court for trial. Okay? All the king, all of his court, the barons, the governors, and the bishops, the ecclesiastics of England, demanded that Thomas A. Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, submit to the civil power. So you have the Pope and Thomas A. Becket on one side. You virtually have all of England on the other side in this contest. Now he says many of the bishops waited upon Becket and earnestly entreated him to resign his office, assuring him that if he did not, he would be tried for perjury and high treason. Okay? Now, why do you think the priests and the bishops were trying to get Thomas A. Becket to comply? Because they knew they were going to be victims of this contest. Okay? If the civil power won, Thomas A. Becket didn't submit, then all of the priests would be in fear of the civil power. So, they tried to encourage Becket to submit to the king's court. But Becket, however, was made of sterner stuff. He reproached them, the bishops, bitterly for deserting him in his contest, charged them not to presume to sit in judgment of their primate, and declared that though he should be burnt alive, he would not abandon his station nor forsake his flock. Okay? You've got to understand, the only boldness that Thomas A. Becket could possibly have in this contest was that he held in his hands, secretly, a papal bull, relieving him of his oath to defend the constitutions of Clarendon. So he was not going to submit that diabolical, that criminal, that murderous priest to the king's court, nor was he going to attend the king's court himself, because he valued the power of the Pope over the king. All right? Now it says, having celebrated Mass, Thomas A. Becket set out from his residence for God of the Roman Catholic Church that is supposed to be after the priest pronounces the soul and divinity of Christ. In other words, he was carrying Jesus in his hands. All right? King of the Parliament sat, he took the cross from the bearer and carried it in the other hand. Robes. In his robes of the Archbishop of Canterbury, the most powerful man in England. The Pope's man in England. He's vested with the power of the Pope in England. He He's dressed in his pontifical robes. He's got the consecrated host in one hand, and when he walks into the king's court, he grabs the cross from the cross bearer and carries it in the other hand. He's trying to send a message. You mess with me, you're messing with God. Right? That's the message he's sending to this court. And he says, when the king was informed of the posture in which Becket was advancing, he retired hastily into an inner room. And you got to ask yourself a question. Is this king fearful?
It's like, isn't this like the exact same levels that we just played in some sense, and then just what, with all the cars or what? Like it starts out with resorts and the Iceland. Let's see here. Maybe it starts with a little difference. No, Iceland here. Resort, just a little, like, and it gives the same money price thing and all that. I don't know. I guess they just seem to it just seems a little, let's just plaster something. Well, they're reversed. Oh, maybe these are reversed, and I guess maybe these are not reversed, No, it's okay. So now we just get them in the reverse order. Okay. That's how we do it, okay. Yeah, okay.
You better believe he's fearful. King has just seen with his own eyes the posture of Thomas A. Becket in his pontifical robes, carrying Jesus in one hand and the cross in the other.
Ooh, a cookie Jesus.
And Becket is intent on presenting himself, as it were, Christ himself in that court. Now, of course, for you and me, us Protestants, we would spit in his face, right? The Pope has no power from God, and nor do his priests. And the Eucharist, or the consecrated host, is just a piece of bread. Okay? And the cross is a reminder of Christ's sacrifice. It belongs to us. So what fear would we have of Thomas A. Becket or Pope Alexander? None. But this king, when he saw Thomas A. Becket come into the court in this posture, he retired hastily into an inner room, commanding all the bishops and the barons to follow him. Here he complained of the insufferable annoyance of Becket. You might say he was whining, and was answered by the barons, quote, that is, Thomas A. Becket had always been a vain and obstinate man and ought never to have been raised to such a high station, that he was guilty of high treason both against the king and the kingdom, and they demanded that he should be immediately punished as a traitor, unquote. See, they seem to have more courage than the king, right? Now the clamors of the barons against Becket became so loud and vehement that the Archbishop of York, fearing they would proceed to acts of violence, hastily retired that he might not be a spectator of the tragical scene. The Bishop of Exeter went into the great hall where the primate sat alone, that is, almost alone, that is, Thomas A. Becket sitting alone, and falling on his face conjured Thomas A. Becket to take pity on himself and on his brethren, the priests, and preserve them all from destruction by complying with the king's will. But with a stern countenance, Thomas A. Becket commanded them to be gone. Okay? Now you know the motive of these priests who have abandoned Thomas A. Becket. They fear the king. They fear that if they side with Thomas A. Becket, the king can have them beheaded. It's a contest between the Pope and the king. So far, the king holds sway with everyone except Thomas A. Becket. And the only reason the Pope has any sway with Thomas A. Becket is because the Pope claims to be Jesus Christ hidden under a veil of flesh, and that he has just written the thunder from Rome absolving Thomas A. Becket from his oath to uphold the Constitution of Clarendon. That's where Thomas A. Becket's getting his strength. From the Pope. Without that bow in his hand, he would have to submit to the king, to the barons, and to the priests of England and subject himself to their authority. But Thomas A. Becket sees the power of the Pope that greater than the king and all of his barons and all the bishops. And when the bishops come to plead with him to help spare their own lives, and much less, not only his life alone, but all the bishops, by submitting to the king's will, Becket just says, "Get out of here. I'm not going to submit to you, the barons, or the king, because I got the Pope on my side." All right? Now, subsection 39 says the bishops, apprehensive of incurring the indignation of the Pope if they proceeded to sit in judgment of their primate, Thomas A. Becket, and of the king and the barons if they refused, begged that they might be allowed to hold a private consultation, which was granted. Okay? The priests are caught between a rock and a really hard place right now. With whom do we side? Where's our best chances of survival? Do we side with the Pope or do we side with the king? So they get into a consultation, a private consultation. Now it says, after they deliberated for some time, they agreed to renounce all subjection to Becket as their primate. Okay? They're not going to any longer be subject to Thomas A. Becket. They have made their decision. They're going to back away from Becket. They're going to side with the king. And they're going to prosecute him for perjury before the Pope. They think they're going to gain sway with the Pope in this case. And it says, and if possible, to procure his deposition. In other words, have Thomas A. Becket unseated from his throne in Canterbury. Now, this resolution they reported to the king and the barons, who, not knowing that Becket had already obtained a bull from the Pope absolving him of his oath, too rashly gave their consent, and the bishops went into the hall in one single body and intimated their resolution to the Archbishop, Thomas A. Becket. The latter, Becket, not deigning to give them any answer except, quote, "I hear," unquote, a profound silence ensued. Now, we've come upon the break. We'll continue right after these messages. You're listening to Inquisition Update on First Amendment Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Great. Then we have the advertising, hate it. Just hate it.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Can we maybe get the third place? I don't know. We'll see.
At FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
There we go. We got,
and you'll receive an MP3
at least,
CD weekly of all
seems
of our
to be
programs.
okay.
As a bonus, we'll send you a password for our audio archives online. That's a $15 value.
Yeah,
Or
well, at least we got the third place.
month of any program on one MP3
Yeah, can we
CD.
move it forward in regards to all this advertising? There we go.
Welcome back to the break. You're listening to the second half hour of Inquisition Update on First Amendment Radio. And if you'd like to
Guess we
support this
crashed it.
program and keep it on the air, please support First Amendment Radio. And if you wish to contribute a gift to me personally, you may do so. My mail address is Inquisition Update, P.O. Box 304, Jefferson, Iowa, 50129. appears for all intents and purposes that Thomas A. Becket's being abandoned by the priests of Rome. The priests of Rome are more fearful of the king than they are of the Pope. But they want to maintain their relationship with the Pope, obviously, because their livelihoods depend on it. If the Pope relieves them of their office, they're nothing anymore. They have no power, and they will be subject to the king's authority. And if they side with the Pope and Becket, they all might be ready to lose their heads. So you can see the priests of Rome in England are now between a rock and a really hard place. And they get together in a conclave, a private conclave behind doors, and they decide they're not going to support Archbishop Thomas A. Becket anymore. They're going to try to preserve their own lives, and they're going to try to convince Thomas A. Becket to comply with the king. Otherwise, they put all their lives in jeopardy. Becket's putting all of their lives in jeopardy. And Becket's listening to all of this and says not a word except, I hear. I hear you. That's all he said. And why was he so tight-lipped? Because he clutched in his hand a papal bull, absolving him from all allegiance to the king, not bound by any oath to the king, not even the constitutions of Clarendon, and his only authority in this world is the Pope, God himself on the earth. Now it says, in the meantime, the king and the barons came to a resolution that if the primate, Thomas A. Becket, did not give in his accounts and without delay, they would declare him guilty of perjury, that is, falsely swearing to uphold the constitutions of Clarendon, and treason, making war against the king, and deputed certain barons to communicate this resolution. Okay, so he's sending representatives of the civil government, the barons, to go to Becket and give him the ultimatum. Now it says the Earl of Leicester, one of the barons, who was at the head of these barons, addressing himself to Becket, said, quote, "The king commands you to come immediately and give your accounts, or else hear your sentence," unquote. Now listen to Becket. "My sentence," exclaimed Becket, starting on his feet. "No, my son, hear me first. I was given to the church free and discharged from all claims when I was elected Archbishop of Canterbury, and therefore I never will render any account. Besides, my son, neither law nor reason permits sons to judge their father." Okay, what's that telling you? That the king is a son. Okay? And the father is the Pope and his archbishop. No civil law has any power over the priests of Rome. This is Roman Catholic canon law. Now I got to ask my listeners a question. How often do you think this confrontation takes place between the bishops, the conference of bishops, the archbishops of this country, and the government of the United States? Do you think that somehow after the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, that anything has changed? Or does the Pope and the bishops and the priests of the Roman Catholic Church regard the government of the United States their son, and they are the father? You think that might explain why the pedophile priests who are left to run free all over this world are not brought to account to the civil powers of this country and submitted to court and tried and punished for their unspeakable crimes? And furthermore, how much power do they have over their sons in the White House? When push comes to shove, And the Pope says one thing and the President says another. Might this explain why this country seems so diabolical, so criminal, so out of control, so morally bankrupt as it is today? I assert to you it is. You've just seen with your own eyes and heard with your own ears how the papacy ruled and reigned over the kings of the earth, all of Europe, and even England. Does any one of us think themselves so wise as to assert that that cannot be the case in the United States of America? I tell you, you're dreaming. All of history attests who the Antichrist is and how he reigns over the kings of the earth. Are you telling me the United States is such a Christian country, such a Protestant country, that this can't be the case in the United States of America? Then answer the question, why does sin so reign in this country? Why does war so reign and even define this country? It's because of the power of the priests. It's because of the power of the archbishop. It's because of the power of the popes over the kings of the earth, even the United States of America. Wherever Rome is powerful, her priests are corrupt, criminal. And the more power they get, the more criminal they are. They do not fear the civil power. They do not answer to the civil power. And not only that, but the civil power is to be their servants. They're crusaders. And whenever the Pope decides to wage war somewhere around the world, he can always count on the United States to mount up and march off to war. And we're never told the truth about what these wars are designed to accomplish. Global sovereignty for the Pope. This country has never fought a war for its own sovereignty. It has never fought a war to secure peace in the world. It has only waged war in the name of the papacy. And Revelation chapter 13 gives us no room for doubt. It describes the first beast who reigned over the kings of the earth and the second beast who caused the whole world to worship the first beast. That's the United States of America.
I would disagree, but
History
anyway.
makes it undeniable. England never has.
Well, I could be wrong, of course, but I think the second beast is the Jesuits, who controls the U.S., of course, and England. But anyway, I think when you just take the U.S., I guess it could fit in regards of a lamb-like beast because outlook it looks Christian, right? It speaks like a dragon. I guess that could be pretty fitting. But so does the Jesuits, who actually controls things behind the scenes. So, but we'll see how that goes. It's fair enough. If you look into the U.S., you can kind of see like the North and the South and joining together, and okay, two horns, and of course they're looking like a Christian nation and yet speaking like a dragon and all that. So but anyway, personally, I think it's the Jesuit general who is representing the false prophet, which I thought first I thought it was actually the first beast that they were included in, but when you look into it, who is actually putting the whole world in front of the first beast? Well, the Jesuits. That's the whole goal in regards of creating this Jesuitical Roman world order. Anyway, so I would disagree with it being the U.S., although I understand the U.S. is a piece to make things happen for sure. So, and I would think the horns on that beast would actually be Washington, D.C. and the city of London. You have these own nations pretty much there. And of course, you had the religious thing in regards of Rome, or Roma. But anyway, but that's my view anyway. That's the best that I can do with what I have.
Never has resisted the Pope, as did England at this time. It's a hideous reality.
Of course, the power and dominion was given to the second beast in 1540. That's where the first beast gave the power to the second beast, and yeah, and they've been working on it since then. In regards to creating the Roman world order and the Pope as the head of the entire world. So, so personally, I think it's the Jesuits, but some, the SDA and others will promote that it's the U.S. Of course, the U.S. are controlled by the Jesuits. So yeah, you again Washington D.C. You have you also in regards to Freemasonry. Yeah, I would think that the 38 degree level Freemasons probably in Washington D.C. and in regards to the London City. I can't confirm it or verify it, but as far as I understand it, there's two according to this bishop that is now dead. But he was talking. He was a 37 level degree Freemason, Knight of Malta, Knight of Columbus as well. And as I understand it, that's not that many that actually are all three. But he was a 37 degree Freemason, and he talked about that. But that was two level 38, and of course 139, which of course is the Jesuit general. But you had one 138 level in regards to the European pretty much area, which kind of would include England in some sense. And then you had the North American. And if you're thinking about it, you have Washington, D.C., the military arm pretty much. Then you have London in regards to the economic things. And then you have the religious thing in regards to Rome. Anyway, but yeah, they're laying the whole world in front of the first beast, which of course is the papacy. So it's a little harder to kind of, but as when I listen to the Jesuitical history by Eric Phelps, one-on-one, that's like many, many hours of history. And I was like, this sounds like the second beast, It's like ding, 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 ding. It's like, wait a minute, this like, the Jesuit sounds exactly like the second beast, It's like, anyway, but yeah, let's listen a little more to Tom Fresh.
But we must embrace the truth. We are bound to be deceived. The reason this country is in debt to the tunes of multitudes of trillions of dollars is because the Pope spends our money for us. Our government spends our money in the name of the Pope to achieve his global goals. There's no way to get around it. The criminality of this country is papal, and we must come to grips with it, or there's no hope for the United States of America. You realize the crimes that this country has committed over its history? Global crimes. And for what purpose? You surely don't believe that the United States is what it claims to be, the harbinger of peace and prosperity in the world. Not when there's no peace in this country, nor any wealth to speak of. This is a country ridden in debt. Every dollar that you carry in your pocket says at the top of it, Federal Reserve Note. It has no worth unless that worth is counted in debt. Every time you go to the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread, something that has intrinsic value, you hand in payment debt. Now, why are we so indebted? Because we've sworn to uphold Roman Catholic canon law in this country. It costs money to elevate the Pope to global supremacy. And it takes peace from the earth. Peace, peace. When there is no peace, there's no peace.
Well, the money system, of course, is corrupt, and like it's interesting how when people say, "Oh, it's like it's the thing will fall, this and that and this," but like it's long, long way beyond past in regards they decide when it's going to falter. It's like it's way beyond like if you look at how much death there is, the death clock and all that. and then people say, "Oh, it will like this and that." No, 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 no. They decide when it's when this that thing will, you know. So people are always like, "Oh, it's will just around the corner in regards of this that it will, No, 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 no. The powers to be decides when it's going to be done. Um, so the dead will just continue to move as it goes on this non-biblical system of evil. And if they wanted to collapse, they will collapse it. But yeah, yeah, people are like, oh, it's going to collapse. It just look at that, look at the numbers. It's like, yeah, well, it's like it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it doesn't really matter. They will collapse it if they want it to collapse, and they will have it to go on if they want it to go on. So it's like incredible. Oh, the collapse is just around the corner. Well, yeah, if they want it. But not because in regards of. So anyway, but yeah, it's a non-biblical system for sure. So apparently we got the first place here. That's pretty nice. We're pretty much running in the, but of course it is also easy peasy mode, right? So as we, yeah, whatever. No, I don't know. In regards to the, difficulty and all that, I really think they should make easy easier. Like I don't know if other people might, younger people and all that. I think it would probably be a little too hard for younger people. Um, and of course, easy difficult should be kind of more easy than this, clearly. This doesn't seem like easy to me, that's for sure. It doesn't it doesn't feel like it, that this is not easy. And you have like difficulty, right? You have easy, normal, and hard, which is fine that they have these difficulties. That's nice, because the other game was just way too easy. It was like easy peasy. That was really, really easy peasy. But here they just seem to just have gone totally the other. Like they should have a little more. What do you call it? From normal to easy. That should be a little more broad. That it would be a little more easy. A little further away from normal. Just you know, because this is not easy. This would not be considered easy. Like give me a break. I'm already wasted. Of course I made a mistake here and there or something like that, and I have issues with the controls, and the controls are not the best and all that. But come on, like does this look like easy to you? It's like give me a break. The computer's already like far beyond, just because of a couple of mistakes and all that. That's not what you consider easy, okay? That's what you consider maybe even above normal. I would think actually more in the actually you really you surely got some difficulty for sure. It would be closer to actually hard than easy, for sure. So I don't know what the programmers did, but they went totally ballistic on the hard mode, just making it, instead of, they went from one extreme to another extreme, making it from easy peasy to making it too difficult. Um, that's what I think about that. Like, give me a break. Was that easy? Does that look easy to you? No, it wasn't easy at all. I was way behind, just because I made some mistakes and all that in the beginning. Um, you know. So anyway, let's see here if we get it. Like, look at this. I think I'm running pretty good, right? And yet the computers, which should be easy, are just right at my butthole. They're just pretty much just that, and just one mistake or something like that, and I'm pretty much done. But that's easy. Okay, that's easy mode. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. But hey, I guess people asked for it, right? And it was also too easy when they beforehand. So I guess it's nice to see that they actually, but when they have like easy, normal, and like this easy mode is much harder than standard normal mode that was in the other one. Um, it doesn't make any sense, to make it so hard. And again, what about younger audience? Um, I think they will have nearly impossible to actually do this. But anyway, at least they won't have an easy way in regards of it. That's for sure. Anyway, let's listen to Tom Fresh again.
We are the battle axe for the Pope in the world.
Yep.
Now, King Henry resisted these pretensions of the Pope, but the government of the United States never has. That's why we are so desperately poor. That's why we've become a warmongering nation, a nation of crusaders. And none of it would have been possible if we'd have believed what the Protestant reformers believed 500 years ago and what every Bible-believing Christian believed all the way back to the Church of Paul. Long before the papacy ever existed, Paul told them,
oh my.
He who now letteth or restrains will restrain. And,
that's
that
true.
man of sin will be revealed. After he is taken out of the way, after the Caesars are taken out of the way, then that man of sin will be revealed.
He already was.
Because we have forgotten or have renounced the belief of all Christians throughout history.
Well, we got third place.
That the papacy is, was, and always will.
As far as I see it, Paulus was the first pope. He was the first pope. Now, could he tell truth and all that? Yeah, absolutely. Like any other pope, using it to his own advantage and all that. Of course, they have to tell some truth for their own gain. That's just how it is. But yeah, pretty much Paul was the first. He was rejected by all Asia. That was the area that stood up against the Romanizers. Isn't it interesting that they also, they rejected Paulus and historically stood against the Romanizers? I wonder why. Well, maybe because they found out that Paulus did not, or Shaul actually, didn't really have totally clean water, Anyway.
The Antichrist. This lock, stock, and barrel, submissive to Roman Catholic canon law and the pretensions of the Pope. And when the priests and when the bishops and the archbishops stroll into the Oval Office, you better believe whoever's sitting behind that desk snaps to attention. Now, they don't dare do it in front of our eyes. That would be too obvious. This country must remain ignorant of the power exerted by the papacy in the Oval Office and in Congress and in the Supreme Court. Else there might be a new Protestant Reformation here in the second beast of Revelation chapter 13. But we know that's not going to happen. The United States of America is going to continue to be the second beast of Revelation chapter 13. It is written. The United States will never repent of its love for the little God in Rome. The little horn of Daniel. The man of sin.
Well, again, I think there's some errors in regards to this, of course. I don't believe the second beast is the United States. I do think we'll actually get a revival at some point, according to the Bible. It's, as far as I can see, we will get a revival, but when we get that revival, we will be butchered like never before. So that's that might actually be closer than we think. The thing is that great tribulation will be of the Gentiles will be a great butchering like never before. Now, if that is happening, well, and we have 144,000 Israelites standing up for the truth as well, then you will have, I think, a worldwide revival where people will either take the choice of truth or the choice of the devil. And I think that will be a great revival at that point. So, in that sense. But, of course, at that point, the devil will already have so much... He will already have so much control of the world, so we will just be butchered at that point. So there will not be anything really to stop the progress of the Roman world order and the diabolical madness of the devil, but those who wake up will be butchered, you know. So, but it must be kind of a rival, that will be at that point, and which is still future, and then after that, then it's the time of the Jews, which they will then have their issues, and then Christ comes back. So, but yeah, it doesn't look good in regards of these days, So, um, we have fallen very. It's very shameful how we have just rejected the truth and you know running with the devil. Okay, we're number 3 at the moment, and we have this special car in front of us that we can win if we get the championship fixed and all that. Which I guess should be a little better than the racing car here, but I guess it might be the race. No, it's not the racing car that's in front. Yeah. Okay, this was just another car. Okay, it's probably a racing car that is in front, and this is also kind of a problem. Yeah, um, you know, that should actually have been tuned. I think the cars should actually have had their own kind of, without actually being like too much better on some level. But clearly, there are some cars that are better than others, which kind of is a little sad. And of course, if you also use the cars that are worse, the game becomes even harder as well in regards to that. So I think some of the cars should actually be somewhat a little adjusted, not too much, but just at least a little, so you kind of still can, so the cars can still kind of follow along, whether it's this or that. Some cars just seems to be like at the behind all the time, like that one at the moment, which actually is unlocked later on, but it's apparently just seemingly one of those that just seems to stay behind, and of course you want some variations with different cars, but it shouldn't be like that. You have some cars that are just better. That seems a little, you know. But anyway, okay, this is not going totally good apparently. Um, it's also weird in regards to what melody they actually use for this. And then they put this ghostly theme on it. Doesn't kind of, I don't think it works very well. But anyway, it is what it is. But besides that, it is one of those games that I have played, of course. So it's just, even when I criticize the game, I only criticize it because I actually do like it. So that's compared to a lot, these top-down games, I always kind of have had a little you know liking to these, like since Death Rally, I think was called, was it Death Rally? I can't, like this 2D game where you, like, I think it was Death Rally, where you kind of could shoot and all that, and it's just incredible that that old game actually, you haven't really had anything that, I guess Roll Cage maybe, but there's a lot of games where you don't have this aspect of defense and attack, and you know um, which you already saw with Dead Rally in the past. Which was kind of an interesting aspect. So, you have cars, you have the 2D thing, top down look, and then use the weapons or defense things, mechanisms, and all that. Kinds of gives it a little more action. Like for example, when we're just like moving around here, and you know, it's you don't really have anything that Of course, now that the difficulty is harder and all that, you do get a little more. Um, but overall, having the weapons gives you a little more interaction with the game. Like one of the wonderful things that, in regards to Road Cage One, was that you, from beginning to end, there was just action. You always were on your toes with Road Cage. Road Cage pretty much was the masterpiece in regards to things like that. You had weapons, You could, you always were on your toes. You had pretty much action from beginning to end. It kind of, you kept it still, you had these weapons that could set the front runner back, So even if you had a front runner and all that, it never got too much because, or at least for the most part, it didn't. Well, I guess depends in regards to how many laps. Well, you didn't really do that many laps, which actually was one of the sad things that Road Case didn't really kind of. They could have made the campaign a lot bigger and made more laps and all that, but they didn't. I don't know why they just, the campaign could really have been expanded in regards to Road Cage 1, and apparently they never expanded it or with any other new maps or something like that, that they could have kind of made an expansion instead of making this Road Cage 2 and all that, just made an expansion to Road Cage 1. It was a perfect game, just make some more maps and make the campaign a little bigger and all that, and that would have been amazing, didn't need to do much in regards of the cars, the cars was pretty much pretty good, all of them, and that was one car that might have been a little better than the rest, I guess, that you could get, which apparently was a police car, but anyway. But overall, all of the cars pretty much kept to a level where, where they were kind of not too far from each other, So, yeah. Um, so let's see here. Okay, so we have the customized prototype car in the front, pretty much, besides myself. Um, and oh my, just it seems like it's a little more. If you hit something, it seems a little more. What do you call it? Punishing than the Android version, which also doesn't help when you have one of these other cars that slides a lot or whatever it's called. Can't remember the word at the moment. Um, Here we have something where the building apparently is in front. That should have been fixed as well, of course. Um, like, why would I can't see a thing, it's kind of annoying, and there are some places in some of the maps that clearly have this issue where it should have been fixed. Anyway, we got the first place, so that was fine. Yeah, there's like this where you drive round and round and round, and you had the bottom. I don't know if it's in the standard version as well. I think it is, but that issue. Let's see if we can find that. There we go. Let's try this. See if we get this issue where we can't see a thing. That should be corrected, of course. Um. So, yeah, what do we have? We have the prototype as well. Yeah. Let's see if we get this issue. Yeah, there we go. That's if that's also in the, when you play it on Switch, that should have been fixed. That is just terrible. How could they not have seen that? They didn't test the game out or something like that. Give me a break. That should be fixed. That's not okay. Um, should have been able to fix that. Like, why is it even? I guess it's because maybe in regards to that other game where you can look around, and maybe that's why you are kind of, I don't know. But yeah, someone should fix that. Whatever the case, should be able to get that away. Kind of annoying, ruining your vision in regards of things. So yeah, so we got also another thing that is annoying is that it moves this thing. Like then I need to go back to the place where I was. What is this rubbish? That's another annoying thing. But yeah, programmers these days. Hey, if the user were there, maybe the user wanted to stay there. Instead of just fixing the user back to the like annoying. Anyway, so here we no, okay, we didn't get this time. Probably going to. Here we have the car that I usually use just behind me, and it has this. It has a little more of a. Oh, apparently, I'm just totally bad at the moment. Yeah, that's not going to go good. I think we're going to lose that pretty good. Oh, that was interesting. But it kind of slides around a lot more, that yellow one, than this one, and it just racing car just do a, how many does it actually have of this turbo thing? Feels like it's using turbo, 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 turbo. It's like okay, how many turbos did it actually? Well, anyway, so that didn't really go so good apparently. We have this. This is also weird. We have like the snowy thing here, but it's the same as the other map pretty much. It's just with snow, as far as I understand it. So like Snowy Alps is pretty much the same map as the other one, just with a snow theme on it. So that feels a little like, come on. Okay, so pretty much the same as. Oh well. There was some more maps in Minimoto 2, I guess made by some other company or something like that. You did have some more maps, although I can't remember how many, but at least you can remember one. And I think that was more, but I can only remember the one. But they could have taken those maps and also fixed it in this version. There was another version as well that I never played that doesn't exist anymore. They should probably also have made something. The problem with Mini Motors 2 was that the car was driving automatically. It's like that was the total rubbish. So some of the things you could just start the game and then just do something else while it was running. Like that's just stupid. Like that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Um, so, but anyway, Mini Motor 2 is not there anymore. Apparently it closed down, and the other one that was before that is also closed down apparently. So I guess the only thing we really have is this one, Mini Motors X. So that we can play on Android. Well, if the mobile is fast enough, at least. Again, some levels you have a good amount of yanking, where it yanks and all that, but it's doing okay, for if you take the resolution down. Actually, there might be some settings that I could actually further adjust in regards to this emulator, because I made this specific emulator just for this game. Um, so I just have one game in this emulator, so I have the keys. Like I don't think you can make like sort these things out for each game yet. So maybe in the future. So yeah, let's see what we have more. What do we want? Do we have? I think well this one, yeah, the airport thing. Let's try the airport. Racing winnings, 100%, 70%, whatever. Okay. We have the racing car, and then we have the what is it called? That winning car in the front. And now I just totally lost it. Apparently. Yeah, that's not good. I don't know why. Sometimes it just goes good, and then all of a sudden everything just goes bad. And you just, you know, maybe something in regards to the controls, because the controls tend to move around on the emulator. I could have used a wheel like on the Android version. You just have a wheel that you turn around in regards of having the maximum of, the maximum out thing here. No, anyway. Oh well, that didn't really go good. We had a fifth place. Oh well, whatever. Oh, that's here. Some fresh again. Yeah, there are clearly some issues that I would disagree with Tom Fresh, and I do wonder in regards of. I feel like maybe in regards of it's just better actually just go to the concentrated meat than. But it's nice still to have someone to talk about the papacy so much and give you a lot of meat in regards of it.
Of Paul, the Antichrist,
But yeah, anyway.
will not repent of our idolatry, of our fornicating, our spiritual fornication with the little God in Rome. As long as this country remains loyal to the papacy, as long as the people are unwilling to admit this diabolical relationship between the government of the United States and the papacy, this country ceases to be a Christian nation. We cannot serve two masters. We cannot profess Christ with our mouth and serve the papacy morning, noon, and night with our hands and our feet, and our blood and our guts, and our tax dollars. This country worships two gods. They all claim Christ, but they all serve the devil. And our churches are leading the way. Never would this message be welcome in any of the churches in this country. Never would Inquisition Update be welcome in the churches of this country. The only place I'm welcome is First Amendment Radio. But even if I'm not welcome here any longer, my message will never change. Not as long as God gives me breath. The Archbishop of Canterbury says, I was given to the church free and discharged from all claims. That is, I do not answer to the civil power, nor any of its claims on my property, which has been given to me by the Pope. I was absolved and discharged from all claims by the civil power when I was elected Archbishop of Canterbury, and therefore I will never render any account to the king. He says, besides, my son, neither law nor reason permits sons to judge their father. In other words, I'm the father of King Henry, and he's not going to bring me into court. I'm not going to submit to his authority. The only authority that I acknowledge is that authority which resides in Rome, the Vicar of Christ, the Son of the living God on his throne in Rome. God hidden under a veil of flesh. And he says, I decline the jurisdiction of the king. What does that mean when you decline the jurisdiction of the king? The king is nothing to you. The king has no power, no jurisdiction. He has no legal authority over you. Okay? The Archbishop of Canterbury, the right hand of Rome in England, says, I declare the jurisdiction of the king null and void, and also that of the barons, and I appeal to God and my Lord the Pope, by whom alone I am to be judged. For you, my brethren and fellow bishops, I summon you to appear before the Pope to be judged by him for having obeyed man rather than God. I put myself, the Church of Canterbury, and all that belongs to it under the protection of God and the Pope, and under their protection I depart hence. Unquote. So, what do you think England's going to do? Thomas Becket and the God of this world on one side, and the bishops, the priests, the archbishops, the barons, and the king on the other. Now it says, having said this, Thomas A. Becket walked out of the hall in great state, leaving the spectators so much disconcerted by his boldness that not an individual had the courage to stop it. Okay? Now ask yourself, who fears whom here? Who has just won the fight? The last truly Protestant bastion in the world, is now trembling while Thomas A. Becket walks free out of the hall. You think any such thing had ever happened like that in the United States of America? You think there's ever been any resistance at all in this country to the authority and pretensions of the Pope and his archbishops? Or do they tremble in their boots just like King Henry and the bishops and the barons? He says the controversial result of this, the tragical result of this controversy is well known. Okay? It's one of the most memorable events in English history. The haughty but courageous primate Thomas A. Becket was assassinated December 29th, 1171 by 4 gentlemen of King Henry's court in consequence of a passionate exclamation they had heard drop from the lips of the king, and was soon after his death canonized as a saint of the very highest rank. Okay? So the King Henry dropped the word, just like Bill Clinton used to do. He'd say a certain thing, and all of his assassins would go out to seek out his enemies and kill them. King Henry had no power but to have Thomas A. Becket assassinated. Now, what does that tell you about King Henry's faith? He didn't have any. That's why he trembled when Thomas A. Becket walked into his court. What was King Henry's weapon of warfare? The sword. Not of the spirit, a steel sword. Had the king armed himself with the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God, he might have corrected Thomas A. Becket. But you can't correct the papacy nor his archbishop. Not even with the Word of God. They'll not submit to God's authority. So King Henry failed the contest. Thomas A. Becket was assassinated, and in retaliation, the Roman Catholic papacy canonized Becket a saint and a martyr of the Roman Catholic Church. Gave him the status among the saints of the Roman Catholic Church of the highest rank. Okay? Thomas A. Becket is remembered in the Roman Catholic Church as a god and a martyr. The book says, endless were the panegyrics pronounced on his virtues. In other words, the Roman Catholic Church went into overtime elevating Thomas A. Becket, making him an angel among the stars, elevating him to the status of a saint, one of the greatest saints of the Roman Catholic Church. Why? Because he opposed civil power. He imposed Roman Catholic canon law. He defended the diabolical criminal priests of the Pope. He upheld Roman Catholic canon law and kept those criminal priests out of the king's court to be subject to the Pope alone, so that their crimes might continue and escalate. That is why Thomas A. Becket is elevated to the height of the stars in the Roman Catholic Church. It says, endless were the panegyrics pronounced on his virtues and the miracles wrought by his relics, that is, his physical remains. That's right, you stand in the shadows of some of the physical remains of Thomas A. Becket, you are as if you are standing in the presence of God Almighty, according to Roman Catholic teaching. And his dead bones do miracles, according to the Roman Catholic Church. Remind you of a passage of Scripture, all powerful signs and lying wonders. I bet you don't know that the Bible spends an incalculable amount of time describing specifically the identifying characteristics of the Roman Catholic Church. Never calling it by name, but describing it in such detail that you can't get it wrong. All-powerful signs and lying wonders, deceiving the whole world. Thomas A. Becket is not a saint. Thomas A. Becket is a criminal papist. Thomas A. Becket will burn in the flames of hell. Thomas A. Becket worshiped not Christ, but Antichrist. And so do all of his counterparts and all of his peers. And even today, the king and his court. Endless were the panegyrics pronounced in his virtues, and the miracles wrought by his relics, according to the Popish historians, were more numerous and more nonsensical and more impudently attested than those which ever filled the legend of any saint or a martyr. Okay? Thomas A. Becket is regarded in the Roman Catholic Church as the saint of saints and the martyr of martyrs. Why? Because he obeyed the Pope and upheld the Pope's supremacy and authority and autonomy over the King of England and his court, and protected the Pope's diabolical criminal priests. That's how you get to be popular in the Roman Catholic Church. That's how you become a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. You see why I call it the synagogue of Satan? It is what it is. And the Bible and history leave none of us any room to doubt. We'll continue tomorrow.
Oh, well. So yeah, that was Tom Fresh in regards to our radio show. So let's see here. 12, 18, 11, 12, 11, 12, 11, 12.
Visit crosstheborder.org,
18, 11, 12.
To get your print, EPUB,
Okay.
or PDF
Oh, yeah.
version of Nicholas
Yeah, but I
Sargent's
guess we
book
listened
titled
to it
When
because
the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the Third Temple will begin to be built.
Let's see here. This one and this one. That's where we might be missing one. Do I need to listen to those as well? But anyway, okay, let's take this first and see where we are. Page 305.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inquisition Update. My name's Tom Press, and I'll be your host for the next
46,
hour.
45. We're down to 45.
Thanks for tuning in.
But 46 again.
We'll continue where we left off in the broadcast yesterday with the reading and discussion of the book, The History of Romanism by John Dowling. Yesterday we concluded at the top portion of
there we go.
Subsection 64 on page 305, where the woman and the beast are together going to persecute, prosecute, and extirpate and annihilate God's true people in the south of France. The woman, the whore of Revelation chapter 17, and the beast upon which she rides, that is the Emperor Frederick II, the civil government, is going to join forces to kill God's people. And when they do it, they'll think they're doing God's service. Now, yesterday we concluded with the reading of the edict that Frederick VII, the beast at this time, was this edict where he was going to dedicate the forces of the state to forcibly kill the Albigensians and the Waldensians, Protestants of that era. And here is his edict. Quote, "The care of the imperial government, says His Majesty, committed to us from heaven and over which we preside, demands the material sword, which is given to us separately from the priesthood. against the enemies of the faith, and for the extirpation of heretical pravity. Okay? Heretical pravity is Protestantism. Those who protest the Antichrist, the whore, and the beast. Okay? Against the enemies of the faith, that is the Roman Catholic faith, and for the extirpation of heretical pravity, that we should pursue with judgment and justice those vipers and perfidious children who insult the Lord of his church as if they would tear out the very bowels of their mother. We shall not suffer these wretches to live who infect the world by their seducing doctrines, their Protestant doctrines, let me just add. They infect the world by their seducing doctrines, and who, being themselves corrupted, more grievously taint the flock of the faithful. Okay? Listen, the Protestant message was being received in the south of France. People were leaving the Roman Catholic Church in droves. They were coming to the knowledge and understanding and love and appreciation for Jesus, the head of the church. And they more and more began to see the Pope for what he is, the Antichrist. The Protestant movement was well underway in the south of France. It was becoming Protestant, and it was a grave threat to the existence, the survival of the Roman Catholic Church. And so the Roman Catholic Church got together with the civil powers of the continent, the Frederick II, the emperor, and they waged a crusade against these godly people.
Yep.
Now, at the bottom, the last paragraph on the bottom of the page, it says, in a second edict, after comparing the Waldenses, these Protestants, to, quote, ravenous wolves, adders, serpents, etc., the emperor proceeds to accuse the heretics of the most savage cruelty to themselves. Quote, since, in the words of the edict, since besides the loss of their immortal souls, they expose their bodies to a cruel death, being prodigal or careless of their lives, and fearless of destruction, which by acknowledging the true faith, that is the Roman Catholic Church, by acknowledging the Roman Catholic Church, they might escape. And which is horrible to express, their survivors are not terrified by their example. Okay? So these people were absolutely committed to telling the Protestant message. No matter what threat the Pope and Frederick II issued against them. No matter if they were going to be burned at the stake. Even if they were burned at the stake, which many, many were, their families and those who observed their cruel execution in the flames were not intimidated. It says their survivors are not terrified by their example. These people willingly gave their lives as a testimony that Jesus is the Christ, the papacy is the Antichrist. We don't find that kind of faith today. Okay, we don't find that kind of conviction today. Why? Because nobody knows who the Antichrist is. Nobody can protest against him because they don't or will not accept who he is. They either don't know or they're doubtful, in which case no one would jeopardize their lives. But these people were certain. They knew precisely who Jesus Christ was, their Savior and Redeemer, and they knew just as precisely that the papacy was Christ's counterfeit. And he was destined to corrupt the truth. Okay? That's his purpose in the world, to corrupt the truth.
Oh, come on.
And to turn the gift of God of salvation into a sacrament of the Roman Catholic Church. That salvation wasn't available through Christ alone, it had to come through the church and through the Pope and through his priest. by participation in all the works of the Roman Catholic Church called the sacraments. Okay? And that not only was it not anymore free, but it had to be bought with either service to the church or money or whatever else that the papacy could gather up. Okay? Indulgences. All right? They turned the gift of God into a lie. Now, they were fully right in their protest against the Antichrist, just as we are fully right to protest against the Antichrist, and to do it without fear, even at the risk of our own lives. Now, he continues, he says, against such enemies to God and man, we cannot contain our indignation, nor refuse to punish them with the sword of just vengeance, but shall pursue them with so much the greater vigor, as they appear to spread wider the crimes of their superstition to the most evident injury of the Christian faith and the Church of Rome, which is adjudged to be the head of all churches. Unquote. So, who does the beast work for? The whore. The Roman Catholic Church. The beast, the scarlet-colored beast, the one who sheds all the blood, the one who carries the sword in the name of the church. Beginning to understand Revelation chapter 17, aren't you? Very vivid color description of this union between the Roman Catholic Church and the governments of the world, and how they work together to kill the saints of the Most High. Okay? This is history. It happened a millennium ago, and it's still happening today. Now, why do we look to the future for the quote-unquote great tribulation? It's all part of the deception.
What?
And this is why this history is so valuable to us.
What are you... Whoa, wait a minute.
Now, continuing, he says, by the same
What
means,
did he
it
say?
is enjoined that strict, and they're going to that strict inquiry be made after these heretics. Okay? They're going to be put into the Inquisition, and they're going to be asked a lot of questions. Okay? This is interrogation. Everyone is going to be subject to scrutiny. You know, anymore, we don't have to sit in front of the judge of priests or the secular power. All we have to do is tap something out on a keyboard, and everything that we think, do, and say is registered with the NSA. Okay? We don't have to go to the Inquisition to be interrogated. We're interrogated as we speak into our cell phones, or change channel on our television, show our preferences,
What? Wait.
or shop online, or have
Okay,
a
I'll go
enemies to
backward here.
God and man. We cannot contain
30.
our indignation, nor refuse to punish them with the
seems pretty
sword
good.
of just vengeance, but shall pursue them with so much the greater vigor, as they appear to spread wider the crimes of their superstition to the most evident injury of the Christian faith and the Church of Rome, which is adjudged to be the head of all churches. Unquote. So, who does the beast work for? The whore. The Roman Catholic Church.
Nah, but yeah.
The beast, the scarlet-colored beast, the one...
Nah, the horse sits on the authority of the beast. So, not sure why. Like, I think there's some mistakes here and there.
Who sheds all the blood, the one who... The name of the church? Beginning to understand Revelation chapter 17, aren't you? Very vivid color description of this union between the Roman Catholic Church and the governments of the world, and how they work together
I didn't
to
get it.
kill the saints of the Most High.
Yeah.
Okay? This is history.
Let's just fix it just
It happened
right
a
on the screen,
millennium ago.
right?
And it's still happening today. Now, why do we look to the future for the quote-unquote great tribulation? It's all part of the deception.
Of course it is still in the future.
This is why this history is so valuable to us. Now, continuing, he says, by the same edict, it is enjoined that strict inquiry be made after these heretics. Okay? They're going to be put into the Inquisition, and they're going to be asked a lot of questions. Okay? This is interrogation. Everyone is going to be subject to scrutiny. You know, anymore, we don't have to sit in front of a judge of priests or the secular power. All we have to do is tap something out on a keyboard, and everything that we think, do, and say is registered with the NSA. Okay? We don't have to go to the Inquisition to be interrogated. We're interrogated as we speak into our cell phones, or change channel on our television, show our preferences, or shop online, or write an email to a friend, or visit a certain website. That's all known by our government. Okay? The Pope never dreamed of having the technology that he has today to interrogate the people, to find out who are the heretics and who are not. Okay? So he says, by the same edict, it is enjoined that strict inquiry be made after these heretics, and that after examination by the prelates, that is the priests, a circuit of priests who were convened to interrogate heretics, if any be found to err in a single point from the Roman Catholic faith, they are, in the case of persevering in their error, condemned to suffer death by the flames, and to be burned alive in public view, while all are forbidden under pain of imperial indignation at the threat of the entire weight and strength of the imperial government to intercede in their behalf.
Oh.
So these people are going to be rounded up, they're going to be questioned, they're going to be convicted of heresy, they're going to be burned publicly alive in the streets. As an example to the whole world, what happens to you if you protest against the Roman Catholic Church and against his priests and his sacraments and against the beast that carries her. Okay, this is a perfect union of church and state, where the Roman Catholic Church controlled the state. Right? The woman who rides the beast, you suppose she leaves the beast to wander wherever he wants to take her? No, she controls the beast. Right?
No.
So the whore, that who worships
no, she's sitting on the authority of the beast. That's the difference. She's sitting on all 7 heads. And so she's sitting on the authority of the beast itself. You know, so anyway, let's see here. Of course, the Pope is the representative of the beast. You know, he's the head of the beast. So, and of course, he's also the head of the Mother Hall. You know. So anyway, Safari. So let's take one of these turnpike, I guess. Anyway, let's listen to it a little further.
A false god. Around with the false god. It's not a Christian church. It's a papal church. And that's why she's classified as a whore. This is always used typically in the Bible to describe an apostate church.
Worshipping the
devil.
devil.
Around with all the other gods. Bowing down and worshiping images and idols. Okay, so she is vividly described as a whore in Revelation chapter 17. And this civil power, in this case, Ferdinand II, is the beast. The woman and the beast. All right, he says, by the same edict it is enjoined that strict inquiry be made after these heretics, that is, after true Bible-believing Protestants, and that after examination by the prelates, if any be found to err in a single point from the Roman Catholic faith, they are, in the case of persevering in their error, condemned to death, to suffer by the flames, and to be burned alive in public view, while all are forbidden under pain of imperial indignation to intercede in their behalf. If anybody stepped forward to try to save these people, they'd be bound with us to the stake right along with them. So says the Emperor, Ferdinand II. It says, the Emperor also, by these decrees, so pleasing to the popes, declared infamous and put under the ban of the empire all who shall in any way receive, defend, or favor these heretics. In other words, if you were to say one word in favor of these heretics, you were under the ban of the entire empire. There was no place you could go. They would pursue you just like a heretic. And it says, from this specimen of the spirit of the secular powers in that age of popish triumph, it'll be easily understood what was likely to be the fate of those who were delivered up by the priests for punishment to the, quote, sentence of the secular judges, unquote. And the purpose of the secular judges that during this period of time, you walk into any courtroom today, you see secular judges. They wear black robes. They have golden bars on their sleeve, depending on their rank and their affiliation. But during that time, they served the church, the Roman Catholic Church, the whore of Revelation chapter 17. The secular judges were just the executing authorities of the civil power, that is, the scarlet-colored beast. Now he says, the arrangement by which the priests delivered up their victims to the vengeance of the secular powers under the hypocritical pretense that the church abhorred the shedding of blood. Okay, you just imagine this. All this bloodletting lies at the church's doorstep. God knows why the lives of these people were destroyed, and to whose blood is their blood accredited. It is to the papacy and to the Roman Catholic Church, even though it was the secular power that carried the sword of the church to kill these people. Revelation chapter 18 tells everybody to get out of the church. Okay, come out of her, my people, that you partake not of her sins. What were her sins? Killing God's people. So if you're in that Roman Catholic Church and you don't come out, you're going to be commanded to kill God's people. Come out from her, my people, that you partake not of her sins, and that you receive not also of her plagues. That's right, the Roman Catholic Church is going to be recompensed for all the blood of the saints that she shed over the thousands of years. Okay? That you partake not of her sins, and that you receive not also of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven. Okay? Now you've heard all kinds of estimates of how many hundreds of thousands to hundreds of millions that the Roman Catholic Church is guilty of killing during this time. But you can argue until the cows come home about how many there were. The Bible tells you that her sins have reached unto heaven. Now, whatever number that is, it piles up all the way to heaven. So it's not a matter of numbers. It's a matter of fact that God has taken notice. The crimes of the Roman Catholic Church have ascended all the way to heaven. And God hath not forgiven her sins. All of her sins are remembered. Every single one of her sins have been remembered. They have not been forgiven. Okay? What does that tell you? There's no grace for the Roman Catholic Church. Why? Because they reject Christ for the Pope. to reject God's law was the Roman Catholic canon law. And they've forsaken God's grace for sacraments, none of which can take away sin. And that's why her sins have reached unto heaven. And God hath remembered her iniquities. It says, the arrangement on which the priest delivered up their victims to the vengeance of the secular powers under the hypocritical pretense that the church abhorred the shedding of blood was an arrangement by which, in the words of Dr. Jordan, quote, the priest was the judge and the king was the hangman. Okay?
Oh, they wondered.
Now, in biblical terms, we would say the whore is the judge and the beast is the hangman. The scarlet-colored beast is the hangman. All right? But don't miss the point. It's the Roman Catholic priests who were the judges, and it was the civil powers from the emperor right on down to the publican in the cities were the hangmen. That's the scarlet-colored beast upon which the whore rides in Revelation chapter 17. Now he says, but we shall proceed the following chapter to a narrative which well illustrates the manner in which those princes, that is the kings of the earth, were treated who hesitated to perform the office of hangman for the Pope and his minions. Okay? What happened if one of the kings of this earth,
I thought,
over which the
what's it called? There's a word for, someone that chops off the head of someone. I was thinking of that word. Someone chopping. It's called something, head of people. In old days was called what? Called something. No, not a guillotine. Like, what was the guy called? The guy that did the thing, beheading, the bloody history of decapitation. Yeah, well, it's called something. The guy that, does it. What is he called, I can't remember. But in Danish we would call it, I guess, bøddel. The guy that did it, but it must be an English word as well. Yeah, well, anyway, can't remember at the moment. Oh, well.
the Pope ruled.
Oh, the game crashed. Okay, let's try again. Anyway, we have around 46 Celsius. Apparently it was down on 45, but then apparently then went up again while the fan is running on maximum. Again, apparently in regards of uploading things, we get issues with around 50 Celsius. I don't know why, but that seems to be the place where it begins to have issues in regards of uploading. Clearly, it seems to be some kind of a heat issue that it begins to have when you get to 50 degrees of Celsius. So it's nice to be able to turn on the fan. Although I know the fan can do so much more, but apparently they didn't fix it so you could boost it further up. If you kind of wanted to kind of adjust it to make it, if you felt like you wanted it to this specific level, you could maybe adjust it to that. But I might have liked it a little cooler as well than 46 degrees and all that. But yeah, you can't adjust it, sadly, the fan further. This is the maximum already, and at least in regards to that application. So although I know the fan can do a lot more, but they clearly didn't fix that in this version at least. Oh yeah. So anyway, little by little we'll gain the third place and all that.
Careless in carrying out his executions, or refused to execute the quote-unquote heretics, that is, Bible-believing Protestants, what would happen to them? What would the Pope do to a sympathetic civil leader, a civil ruler who did not pursue with vigor these godly people. We're going to see an example of that. This is chapter 8 on page 307 if you're following along. It's entitled Pope Innocent's Bloody Crusade Against the Albigenses under his legate, the ferocious Abbot of Citeaux and Simon, Earl of Montfort. Okay, subsection 65, we begin. It says, about the close of the 13th century, in consequence of the increase of heretical Waldenses and Albigensians, particularly in the south of France, the Pope's legates, Guy and Rainier, were dispatched from Rome for the purpose of extirpating these heresies, that is, to extirpate the heretics, and armed with papal authority committed to the flames a large number of them at Nevers in 1198 AD and following years. These efforts, however, were attended with so little success that Pope Innocent III, whom we've already had more than one occasion to name, found it necessary to resort to more vigorous measures. Okay, the crusade wasn't going along so well. So Innocent III had to resort to extreme measures. He proclaimed a crusade against these unoffending, defenseless people. That is, God's people. Defenseless and unoffending. And he dispatched an army of priests throughout all Europe, not just France, but all of Europe, to exhort all to engage in the holy war against the enemies of His Holiness, the Pope, and the Roman Catholic Church. So now it's not just in the south of France. This is a continent-wide crusade called by the Pope against godly people, Protestants. He says, as these papal emissaries traverse the kingdoms of Europe, we are informed by the learned Archbishop Usher that they had one favorite text, a biblical text. You'll recognize it. It's Psalms chapter 94, verse 16. Quote, who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Unquote. You see how Satan uses God's own words to justify his horrors? It says, and the application of their sermons was generally as uniform as their text. Quote, you see, most dear brethren, how great the wickedness of the heretics is, and how much mischief they do in the world. You see also how tenderly and by how many pious methods the Roman Catholic Church labors to reclaim them. But with them they all prove ineffectual, and they fly to the secular power for their defense. Therefore, our Holy Mother the Church, through the great reluctance and grief, calls together against them the Christian army. And we'll continue with the prayer, with the sermons preached by these Roman Catholic priests during this time. We'll get back to the break. You're listening to Inquisition Update on First Amendment Radio.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Uzuy. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings of Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found that Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more, using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your free EPUB or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than listening to the second 375.1.
Yes, it's just. Oh, no, we already had that one.
Welcome back to the break. You're listening to the second half hour of Inquisition Update on First Amendment Radio. And if you'd like to support this program and keep it on the air, please support First Amendment Radio. My personal snail mail address is P.O. Box 304, Jefferson, Iowa 50129. My email address is tom@seawaves.us, and the website is inquisitionupdate.org. Now, the papacy invokes Psalm 96, verse 16. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? And who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Obviously, the papacy presents itself to the world as God through invoking Psalm 96, verse 16. This is blasphemy. Flat out blasphemy. The Antichrist is invoking Psalm 96, verse 16, claiming himself to be God on earth. And he is using Psalm 96:16 to conscript a continent-wide military, a continent-wide militia to pursue God's people. And together with this invocation of Psalm 96:16, the priests go all over Europe with a sermon. And the sermon goes something like this. You see, most dear brethren, how great the wickedness of the heretics is, and how much mischief they do in the world. You see also how tenderly and by how many pious methods the Roman Catholic Church labors to reclaim them. But with them, they all prove ineffectual, and they fly to the secular power for their defense. Okay? These heretics fly to the secular power for defense. They think the scarlet-colored beast is going to defend them, when she in fact carries the Lord, the Roman Catholic Church. All right? The sermon continues. He says, therefore our Holy Mother, the Church, though with great reluctance and grief, calls together against them the Christian army. Okay? We're going to have a Christian army. We're going to conscript a Christian army from every reach of the empire to go against these heretics. And if any member of the civil power, any member of the scarlet-colored beast that carries the Roman Catholic Church, if they're reluctant to join this crusade, never mind. They will come under the ban of the church too.
Fuck yeah, that's something.
Okay? So there's no one going to be excluded from this crusade. Everyone's involved, and everyone is going to risk their salvation and their lives if they fail to kill these heretics. He says, therefore, our Holy Mother, the Church, though with great reluctance and grief, we just hate to do this. Oh, we're so sorry to have to do this, but we must. We must call together against them the Christian army. And then if you have any zeal for the faith, that is for the Roman Catholic faith, if you have any zeal for the Roman Catholic faith, if you are touched with any concern for the glory of God, that is the glory of the Pope, you must understand, if you would reap the benefit of this great indulgence, come and receive the sign of the cross and join yourselves to the army of the crucified Savior. Unquote. So the Pope has just issued a continent-wide indulgence. If you have any unconfessed sins, if you are a prisoner in a penitentiary doing penance to the Roman Catholic Church and the civil power for some crime that you've committed, no matter how heinous, your crimes will be forgiven you. Your sins will be forgiven you. You will not be required to perform any penance if you join the crusade. In other words, the gates of heaven will be thrown open for you no matter how criminal you are if you join this crusade.
Oh, yeah.
I, the Pope, the voice of God on the earth, will remit all of your sins, will cast open the pearly gates, and when you approach those gates, St. Peter will step aside and curtsy and bow when you walk in, if you join this crusade to kill these Bible-believing Protestants who say that Jesus is the Christ and the Pope is the Antichrist. Does it make sense to you now?
But listen what he doesn't say. Like, it's interesting how Tom just goes around it, he does say, it's not false in regards to Christ and Antichrist, but what he doesn't say is that Jesus is God, that there's only one way to everlasting life, and it's not through a false cookie. He tends to, even if he gets, he did talk in regards to the divinity, this in regards to this cookie and all that, but he just forget to mention that Jesus is God. Jesus is God Almighty in the flesh who died for the sins of the world. And that doesn't seem to, I just never hear it from him. I don't recall him ever saying that. When he uses the words Messiah or Christ, that, Jesus is the Christ and the Pope is the Antichrist. Sure. And this is absolutely true. But he doesn't say that Jesus is God. I don't hear him say Jesus is God in any, it seems that, and it just, why wouldn't you say that? It's like I have hours and hours and hours and hours of listening to Tom, and I just don't recall him actually saying it, and then when you kind of, sort things out and refine things and all that, you kind of like, wait a minute. He doesn't actually say that Jesus is God anywhere. He might have, there might be some places. I haven't heard it, or I don't recall. Every single time, like now, because now I'm paying attention to it. So like now I'm aware that, wait a minute, that he's actually not proclaiming that Jesus is God, So in these radio shows, that's a kind of huge biggie, biggie. But of course, in regards of the Antichrist, being the papacy and the Pope and all that, that's absolutely, he has a lot of good stuff for sure. There's a lot of things to learn from him, and in regards of those things, reading all those Protestant books and all that, and in regards of this topic, I just don't hear in regards of that the Pope is the Antichrist, or that Jesus is God Almighty in the flesh. I don't hear him say that any place. Anyway.
And the Pope, makes sense to you now? You know what? I've been watching some videos lately on YouTube. I won't give the man's name, but he's very popular. He's part of the Flat Earth group.
See, let's go a little backward here.
If all of yours given you,
Okay.
you will not be required to perform any penance if you join the crusade. In other words, the gates of heaven will be thrown open for you no matter how criminal you are.
So he's going to talk about a flat earther. Very interesting.
I, the Pope, the voice of God on the earth, will remit all of your sins, will cast open the pearly gates, and when you approach those gates, St. Peter will step aside and curtsy and bow when you walk in. If you join this crusade to kill these Bible-believing Protestants who say that Jesus is the Christ and the Pope is the Antichrist. Does it make sense to you now? You know what? I've been watching some videos lately on YouTube. I won't give the man's name, but he's very popular. I've been watching some who say that see and bow when you walk in. If you join this crusade to kill these Bible-believing Protestants who say that Jesus is the Christ and the Pope is the Antichrist. Does it make sense to you now? You know what? I've been watching some videos lately on YouTube. I won't give the man's name, but he's very popular. He's part of the Flat who then curtsy and bow when you walk in. You join this crusade to kill these Bible-believing Protestants who say that Jesus is the Christ and the Pope is the Antichrist. Does it make sense to you now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I've been watching some videos lately on YouTube. I won't give the man's name, but he's very popular. He's part of the Flat Earth group. But he's got this theory that the Antichrist, the future Antichrist, he doesn't believe that the Pope is the Antichrist. The papacy is the Antichrist. No, he's a futurist. And he believes that the future Antichrist is going to be a genetic clone of Nimrod.
I know who he's
That's
talking
right.
about. Okay. So he's dead now, of course. I don't recall his name, but oh, I know his name. I know who he is. But he's dead now. I'm not sure if he took the vaccines or whatnot or what, but he's dead. It's actually weird that he actually. I'm not sure what he. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if he took the vaccine or not, but whatever the case, he's dead. And of course, a lot of people died. Of course, it's a wonderful cover to murder people at that point. When you have people believing that there's. Yeah, but anyway, Skimatsky, no, Skorsky, no. I can see him. I know how he looks, but I can't retrieve the name at the moment. But yeah, I know who is he talking about, pretty much. Yeah, he went ballistic on the flat Earth nonsense. He was pretty much the big promoter on the flat Earth. And of course, now he's dead. Yeah, he was also talking in regards of Nimrod and some of these things and all that. I remember listening to him. When he went into this flat Earth bullshit, just absolutely madness.
Now, the United States military found, I think it was in 2003, according to this author, this YouTuber, that the U.S. military found in 2003, I recall, the grave of Nimrod. And they seized it. And they also seized all of the ancient encrypted writings that were held in the Baghdad Museum, and that all of these ancient writings that the United States confiscated had to do with resurrection. And the implication of this YouTuber is that the United States, is now in possession of the DNA of Nimrod. and we have all the ancient writings about resurrection. And then we're going to clone a genetic clone of Nimrod, and he's going to be the Antichrist. Let me tell you something. The Protestants were absolutely right. The Antichrist is no genetic clone of Nimrod. The genetic clone of Nimrod sits on the throne of the Vatican. It's the papacy. You've heard me over and over and over refer to the Pope as the modern-day Nimrod. That's exactly what he is. The Protestants were absolutely correct. They identified the papacy as Nimrod. They identified the papacy as Pharaoh. They identified the papacy as the man of sin prophesied in the scripture, the Antichrist, the little horn, and history has proven it beyond any argument. Now, I don't deny that the United States might possibly have the DNA of the ancient Nimrod.
You know, I do remember that he was promoting this Nimrod thing and all that. But I guess he was also promoting that he would be the Antichrist, actually, now that Tom is actually saying it. And I guess at that point, when I listened to this guy, I guess I didn't know who the Antichrist was at that point. I guess I was still looking around and all that. But yeah, that was before he began to promote all this flat earth nonsense. And I can't remember his name on the fly, you know. I know I can find him. I know he responded to one of my videos negatively. And that video, as far as I know, is still on YouTube with the response, you know. So anyway, I put the response up and all that, fix it to the video. I can't remember if he actually responded on Facebook to me on YouTube. I can't remember, but I did attach the thing to it.
Don't even deny that they might possibly. But guess what? He's not the Antichrist. He was an Antichrist, and if the United States and the Vatican use this clone of Nimrod for any other purpose, it will be to sign a 7-year peace treaty with the Jews for 1 week. And
actually, in regards to the 7 years, as far as I can see, when I research it, is he's going to strengthen a covenant. What covenant is he going to strengthen? Well, what are the Jews going to do? Well, they're going to sacrifice again, and in regards to the oblations and the rest of the things. So, of course, he's going to strengthen that covenant, which also will make the Jews believe, or a lot of them, believe that he's, Christ, and he will also either build the temple or make available that the temple will be built. So, and he will have this fake peace for a little while, or this, and then everything goes absolutely haywire, in the middle of the week. So it doesn't seem like, as far as I can see, he's not actually making like a, he's just strengthening a covenant. What covenant? In regards to the covenant, in regards of the temple and all the things that is going to be done in the temple, sacrificing animals and oblations and all that, and that will go on for 3.5 years. Of course, this is the period of the Jews, so I don't think, as for in regards to the period of the Gentiles, that's before that, So if people are going to look to that, might be kind of error. But anyway, it's so sad that it made this 3-hour video in regards of things, and then the sound was just waste. I was like, I just wanted wanted what I found out on the internet, so at least it would be out there, because in regards of talking to people about it, in regards to Daniel 9, you have 2 groups that is out there, and they both have some truth, and they both have some things that are false, but they don't want to take the middle road. They just want to take one extreme or the other extreme, and then they battle it out. They don't want to hear about that. There actually is 2 different weeks. They want to, commit the 2 weeks together, whether it's in the past or into the future. They can't accept that there's actually 2 different 7 years. So, which I don't think it should actually be that difficult to understand that, but apparently it is. Like the last 7 years is talked about after the temple and Jerusalem is destroyed. Thereby, of course, it's after 70 AD. And of course, 70 AD happened after the 70 weeks was fulfilled. So it's not, you have 77s, you have the temple in Jerusalem being destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD, Roman time. And then you have a future in time, 7 years, It's like, why would that be so difficult to figure out? Apparently. You just have to go by the timeline, in regards of taking it, one by one, not jumping around in regards to the information, but just taking the information in a timeline, That kind of makes sense, should make sense, but apparently not so much, apparently. Anyway, so we're pretty much fixed a lot of these, and of course we still have medium and hard and all that too. Pretty much, so that's a lot of gameplay time in regards to this game, and they surely have made it a lot harder than the Android version. And although I still think that easy is not kind of that is much more much closer to harder than easy mode. So now you can see like this is still easy mode, and I'm still struggling, in regards of getting. So that's interesting how they went from easy peasy mode to, the other extreme. Yeah, but I guess it's better than having it too easy. I don't know. Although I do, the control in the Android version does seem to be more. What do you call it? I like it a little, more. Maybe it's because this is much faster than the other thing or something like that. It just seems like the controls just seem so much better on the Android version somewhat. It is harder on this thing here, and of course we do have this little thing here that moves around as well, which doesn't make it easier either. But overall, in regards to the when you feel like the vehicle and all that, how it actually reacts and all that, just feels better on the Android version, I think. It seems also easier to actually to kind of be connected with the car in some sense, in like a better wording, that it actually does what you want it to do with the controls. But yeah, it's somewhat harder here for sure, but yeah. And I still don't know why the company wouldn't make this version into Android version and sell it on Google Store. Maybe they had issues with Google. I don't know. Maybe they made a deal with some of the other consoles, or I don't know. It just seems weird. But hey, I guess you can do it with the Switch now. And of course, in the future, the mobiles will only get more powerful, and the emulation should also only get better in regards to the drivers and all that, as some people are working on it, Like in the Android version, every single time money was around, I would take it, because would win anyway. But on this, it's like, you can really do some yeah, you can really end up losing. If you go for the money, you can end up losing some some length, which kind of could make you win. Oh, we still have one now. Okay, I thought we actually were finished. I was like, okay, we got the third place. Apparently not. And apparently I might actually lose, I guess, instead. I thought we actually had won. It's like, oh my. So I'm going to lose. Oh, great. I thought we had run. Okay, my mistake, apparently. Oh, let's try again. Yeah, it is interesting that Tom apparently never really, as far as I know, says that Jesus God. Again, I haven't listened to all his programs and all that, but it seems like it's one of the things that he's kind of tiptoeing around, or not really. He can say Christ, he can say the Messiah. I guess he also can say the Son of God. I can't remember. But in regards to proclaiming him God, that's apparently another. Of course, I did get a response from Tom, and he never really gave me a straightforward answer in regards of it, because at the moment he ended up with Unitarians, two other Unitarians, and that sounds like that's just weird, kind of weird that, you know, um, and one of them is heavily promoting Unitarianism on the internet now, gone totally into ballistic heresy on that. Yeah. So I wanted to know what Tom actually, himself believed, and he didn't give me a straightforward answer. I think it was a very, sort of, you know, elusive answer, I think. But he did give me an answer, but I just felt like it was pretty elusive. Like, hey, if you believe that Jesus is God, just say yes, right? If you don't believe it, just say no, right? It shouldn't be more difficult than that. If you're a Unitarian, just tell me, right? If that's the thing. Well, anyway. But yeah, so I really didn't get any direct response from Tom in regards to that. So I understand that Jörg is still pushing Unitarianism on his channel, reading of this first book against Jesus being God, and then the next book he also has that's from Unitarians. So a bigger book, So he has apparently more than enough to go with the next couple of years in regards of attacking the divinity of Jesus, which is just totally horrendous to see that Jörg would go that direction. I guess that is what it is. I was kind of, a little suspicious in regards of some of the things, like the use of Roman numbers, for example, you know, and in regards to the 666, it's like, yeah. Well, anyway, the King James version, holiness and all that. Anyway, whatever the case, it clearly didn't go good, because now he's rejected that Jesus God. That's at least total heresy, absolutely falsehood, and absolutely wicked evil, and he seems to enjoy attacking the truth, which is the most important truth, to know that Jesus is God Almighty and he died for the sins of the world once and for all. For the sins of the world, and rose again 3 days later. So God was dead. Yes, God was dead for 3 days. Oh, who was running things? The Mohammedans will say, well, the Father is still in the heavens, right? Yeah. You heard about the Trinity, or the thing that you're attacking all the time. Yeah. Anyway, I guess we are going to get only a number 2. Oh well. Well, we at least got second. That's fine. That's enough to be valid. So yeah, 47 degrees. Didn't we actually? So we actually got down to 45, and then it went up to 46 and 47 now. Okay, that's interesting. Even if the fan is running, it's kind of apparently going upward again. I don't know why. It's okay. And apparently, okay. I guess the battery is also nearly at its low point and all that. So I guess we tested it a little in regards to the battery and as long as it doesn't reach 50 Celsius, because then it gets issues with live streaming apparently. So yeah, so that's fine. We'll have a room. Okay. Two racing. Oh my, that was bad. Oh, oh wait a minute. I do have. Oh, stupid me. Like we had these. I could have used some of those. Oh my. Anyway, yeah, it's okay. Third place. Whatever. Yep, let's take this one. Oh, let's listen to a little more in regards of Tom Fresh. Be right back here.
In the midst of the week, he'll renege on that, and he'll be taken out of the way. And then the Pope will ride into Jerusalem on the colt, the foal of an ass, and everyone will hail the Pope as the representative of Christ on the earth. The Pope's not going to have it any other way. Now, I've suggested that the Pope can use anyone, even Mickey Mouse, to sign that 7-year peace treaty, and the whole Protestant world will believe, and they will not take any other word from anybody. They will believe that that person is the Antichrist. If they continue in this futurist belief, whoever signs a 7-year peace treaty offers a 7-year peace treaty with the Jews to allow them to begin building their temple and offering sacrifices and eating and drinking damnation to themselves, once again proving that they do not receive the blood of Jesus, but they must make sacrifices, just like the Roman Catholic Church does. Once that man is taken out of the way, the Pope is free to hail himself as whatever he wants to in this world, and the Protestants will gobble him up like he was God.
Yeah, I kind of have some. I think I have some issues in regards of how he described things and all that, and believe it's going to happen. But the thing is, like when he went off the radio program, he ended up going astray on some of his views, as far as I could see, in regards to the understanding I got from him when he was on the radio, and then when he got kicked off, or when he left the radio, I guess. Then when they had this dispute, then he seemed to, when he came back on YouTube, it seems like he had changed some of his views on things. And well, anyway, so
that the whole Christian world bow down to the Pope of Rome, the Antichrist of Scripture, history, and prophecy. You see why so many times I'm filled with emotion about this? Look, the consequences of being mistaken about who the Antichrist is are incomprehensible. And virtually every member of my family is prepared to believe a lie. There's not one exception that I'm aware of in my family, my own personal family, on any side, whether it be the family of my father, the family of my mother, the family of my stepfather, the family of my wife. There is not one member of any of those families that are not right now prepared to believe that whoever puts up a 7-year peace treaty for the Jews he is the Antichrist. You won't be able to convince him otherwise. Once that treaty is signed and that man is revealed, there won't be any words in this world that will change their minds. They've been prepared for it all their lives.
Yeah, so what Tom is seemingly saying is that someone else than the Pope will fix this 7 year. But that doesn't seem to be, as far as I can see, anything in the Bible actually saying that. It's still focused on the Romans and all that, and the 7 year thing, in regards to strengthening this last week, will be the Pope, because he needs to be seen. You have the Jews have some requirements for the Antichrist in regards of building the temple, in regards of peace, and of course of what's the last thing? Rebuilding temple. Of course, and if he strengthened the covenant in regards of sacrifices and all that, and oblations and whatnot, that's that of course would be and then of course some fake peace, pretty much, or some peace for a short while in some sense. Deceiving the Jews to believing that he is something that he's really not, for pretty much 3.5 years, and then he goes in and takes the temple and the things afterwards, and the fighting things 3.5 years are in it. It kills the 144,000 and all that. What was that? That was 3 things. I'm missing something in regards of building the temple, fixing peace in the world, and what was the last one? Thing was one more thing. Yeah, I can't remember the last thing. Building the temple, give peace, and then one more thing, like 3 requirements, which would help them look favorable on the papacy, as as the Messiah. So I just can't remember. I can't remember what the third thing was that the Jews are talking about. So I don't know why he was be talking about another one, making this 7 year peace deal and all that. That doesn't really seem to be the way to go. So there we go. Well, number 4. What was like the third thing? I can't remember. Anyway, it will happen when it happens. It'll be pretty easy to see when things are happening. But I think it will be the papacy that fixes this 7 year thing. I don't think it will be another, but that's what apparently he seems to believe. There will be another that fixes this 7 years, and then the other guy will come in and look like the papacy will come in and look like the Christ. So yeah, I'm not really maybe I've been refined enough to actually just read the Bible. Anyway, but there's a lot of good Roman history for sure in regards to Tom Fresh. It's lovely too. But I must say, in regards to some of these views that I guess I didn't really pick up on that when I was just listening to Roman history, because I didn't really have any foundation to to go either way in some sense. I hadn't solidified some of the things that I've solidified now, so I couldn't really say either or. So it didn't really be it wasn't really a thing that I kind of reacted either way, because I didn't have I didn't have the know-how myself. Come on. Yay, we got it. The first place. We got it. $900 or whatever this sign is, So yeah, but of course that's nice with the game when it's harder, is that you actually do get this, there's some things going on until the very end. Sometimes at least more of it than than when you have the Android version. Anyway, let's listen a little more to Tom Fresh.
And they even pray for the Jews to build the temple. They think the establishment of the modern nation state of Israel is God's work. They believe the Jews should build a temple and make animal sacrifices, which is nothing but what they did after Jesus was crucified. Having rejected Jesus, they were bound by Jewish law to offer animal sacrifices. They did not accept that Jesus was the sacrifice, the supreme sacrifice to which all other sacrifices pointed.
No, I have to correct him here in regards to this. Just because Jesus is our sacrifice doesn't take away the sacrifices. If you look in prophecy, you see in the future there will still be sacrifices, So it's like, at least if you want to trust the Bible and all that, you can see that in the future there will be sacrifices. Well, if Jesus is our sacrifice, how is it that there can be sacrifices in the future? Well, there is, and that's just how it is. And of course, you saw the Christians, or the first Christians of the Jews, still continuing to sacrifice and still following the law of Moses. Believing in Jesus didn't take away from them that they would still follow the law of Moses. It is still part of the law to commit to these things. It's not to say that of course we're saved by believing in Jesus, but to say that there's no more sacrifices and all that kind of when you look in Scripture, you have prophecies about the future talking about sacrifices. You also have in regards of festivals and all that, the Passover, Sukkot, and the Sabbath, and you also have some new moon things and all that. And you have some in regards of sacrifices. So, you can't really say it's bad to commit to sacrifices in regards of what is written in the law of Moses. I can't see how that could be bad. It's just still keeping the law. Not to say that we are saved by that, but, it's still part of the law. But anyway.
Jesus, and they had only one that they could continue in that temple mount worship to offer sacrifices of lambs and goats to the God of heaven. Sacrifices that can never take away sin. And to prevent them from continuing to eat and drink damnation to themselves, God used the Roman 10 legions to destroy that temple and to level it so that not even one stone remained upon the other. But my family and every member in that family, no matter from what side of the family tree you look, they're all anticipating a rebuilt temple and the reinitiation of animal sacrifice.
I absolutely believe that will happen because that's written. And I guess that's one of, I guess Tom is probably taking that last 7 years and putting it into the past and saying it is about Jesus. Which kind of ruins the timeline. And that's why, if you look at it, you have two different sevens.